Over the festive season, we saw many buildings decorated with special lighting, banners, and ornaments. But now, all of those have been removed, and this is to make sure the management does not incur unnecessary cost in maintaining and retaining these decorations. And actually, these decorations can easily get tampered with, get damaged, and they will not serve the right purpose the next season. So in the same manner, for Kenyans living in diaspora, if you don't have an active income generating business here in Kenya, or you are not virtually employed here in Kenya, you could be there in UK, in US, but you are working virtually here, or you don't have a rental income here in Kenya, the best thing for you to do is therefore to deactivate your KRA PIN. And what do I mean by deactivating KRA PIN? Is by you formally applying to KRA, informing them that for the next 1, 2, 3 years, you will not be generating any income here in Kenya because you are either a student abroad or you are permanently employed abroad and you don't have any business here in Kenya. Once you do that, you will prevent yourself from getting penalized by KRA every other time you don't file returns. Remember, in Kenya, you don't have to earn any income for you to file returns. As long as your KRA PIN is active, you are required by law to file nil returns in the event that you are not earning any income. Now, you can imagine if your KRA PIN has many obligations, because perhaps before you left for diaspora, you had tried to do business using your PIN. You had registered your PIN for other obligations other than the main obligation of the PIN. The main obligation of the PIN is usually to pay income tax. But perhaps you had started a small business and therefore your PIN was supposed to act as an employer. So you had registered pay as you earn on that PIN. You had added another obligation of pay as you earn on your personal PIN. Maybe you are dealing with professional services where you are required. Maybe you are dealing with professional services where you are required to add VAT as an obligation on the PIN that you are using to do the business. And you are doing business using your KRA personal PIN. So it has a VAT obligation. Now, what that means is that every other month that you don't file even nil returns for VAT, because we have said your PIN has a VAT obligation, you get penalized 10,000 per month. So the same way, if the PIN has pay as you earn obligation, which is the one that is registered when you have employees in your business and you're using your personal KRA PIN to do business. If you don't file pay as you earn returns by 9th of every month, what will happen is that you get penalized another 10,000 per month. So if your KRA PIN has those two obligations, VAT and pay as you earn, then what that means, you are getting penalized 20,000 per month. If you multiply that one by 12, what you get is 240,000. So you can imagine the PIN remains like that for 3 years, 5 years, $1 million. You will be owing KRA 1 million Kenya shillings. And that will cost you in a very big way, because there will come a time you will need to get a tax compliance certificate. And you cannot get a tax compliance certificate if your PIN has got tax arrears. So why would you need tax compliance certificate? The reason you would need tax compliance certificate would be maybe you have decided to be more active here in Kenya and you open a business, and this business you want it to participate in government tenders. For you to participate in government tenders, one of the requirements would be you get a tax compliance certificate. Probably you want a loan facility from the bank. The same thing, you would be required to attach a KRA tax compliance certificate. Or perhaps It is employment. You want to get into employment. And one of these big companies, as part of the vetting, they require you to provide them with tax compliance certificate. And this is a requirement by Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya under leadership and integrity, where every Kenyan is supposed to be tax compliant. Or perhaps you are coming from diaspora and you are full of hopes that you want to change and transform our country from where we are. Of course, we have poor leadership, corruption, and you come back here in Kenya inspired to make a change, and you want to vie for a political position. What that would mean, you would be required to attach and get a tax compliance certificate. I've been involved, engaged by a few politicians who, when they want to get registered by IEBC, they get shocked because they are not able to comply with that condition of tax compliance certificate. And sometimes it becomes too late for them, even if we want to help as a consultant, because the burden on their tax, on their KRA PIN is too heavy, is too much, and therefore they are not able to meet the registration deadline. Maybe the penalties were too many, the mess was too much, and the KRA needed them to submit audited financial statements for the business that is supported by their KRA PIN for the last 5 years. Now it takes time. Yes, the audited financial statements we can prepare and then submit to KRA, but we cannot force KRA to fast track the process of reviewing the documents that we have submitted to them. And therefore, someone who had a vision, who had hopes of wanting to participate in politics, ends up having to wait for another 5 years. And those 5 years, it may not be automatic. Maybe the mess that you had done on your KRA PIN is too big. And therefore, this is where I'm saying, if you are not using your KRA PIN, you are in diaspora for some reason, don't take this for granted. Apply for a KRA PIN dormancy, and I know you will thank me later. The process of applying for dormancy is very simple. You log in into iTax portal and you will find that section for the KRA, for registering for KRA PIN dormancy. When should you now reactivate your KRA from the dormancy position? How you do that is after perhaps you come back to Kenya. As I had said, you are a student, now you have returned back to Kenya, and you now want to seek for employment and you require tax compliance certificate. You cannot get tax compliance certificate if your PIN is dormant, so you have to reactivate. And there are many things that you cannot do when your KRA PIN is inactive, or there are other things that you need your KRA PIN to be in good condition. When you are registering a bank account, KRA is a requirement. When you are buying a land, KRA PIN is a requirement. When you are buying a vehicle or registering it or transferring it, KRA PIN is a requirement. When you want to develop a piece of land to build and you are seeking building approvals, KRA PIN is a requirement. Perhaps you want to start a business, register a company, whether a business name or partnership, KRA PIN is a requirement. I'm just trying to mention the many things where you need your KRA PIN, just to realize it is a very important document. Maybe at the moment you are not required to present a tax compliance certificate when you are doing all these things, including when you are applying for a loan facility, when you want to get an insurance cover, when you are doing contracts with the government, even public sector. There are many things that you cannot be able to do without a KRA PIN. And right now, most of the requirements for KRA PIN, where KRA PIN is required, you're just supposed to present it as it is. But with time, it will not just be a KRA PIN as a certificate, but the tax compliance certificate. So if you really don't want to get complications at some point in future, always ensure that your KRA PIN is clean. has no burden. So now, as I wind up, if you're a Kenyan living in diaspora, take action right now. What you need to do, log into iTax portal and start the process. If you want assistance, engage a tax expert who will do it for you. It may cost you 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 shillings for that to be done, but the usefulness and the value that that process will give to you will be so much, because it would be very disappointing, very embarrassing that you interact with the information and then you don't act. Always ensure that you are tax compliant. Always ensure that you do what is required by you, by KRA, because for KRA, you can run, but you cannot hide. In my next discussion, I will be addressing PIN cancellation, because you can cancel your PIN, and I will also be addressing PIN suspension. PIN suspension is now when KRA decide to suspend your KRA PIN because they have realized that you are not an honorable person. But before KRA thinks that you are not an honorable person, if your PIN is not active because you are living in diaspora, make sure to deactivate it by applying for KRA PIN dormancy. As I keep saying, when you know better, you do better, and you plan better.